Hi guys, this is Lashette from Scarlet Moon Creations, and this is my favorite paranormal romance series video. So, I have 11 books to talk about. I often ramble on in these videos, but I do want to get them all in, so I'll try to be brief. Couple of caveats. I have not read all of the books in all of the series. With three exceptions, all of these series are ongoing. But for the ones that are ongoing, there's only one, I think, where I'm actually caught up with the latest release, and that literally just happened recently. So I'm going off of what I've read so far. I'll be talking about these in order of preference, so we'll go from number 11 up to my favorite paranormal romance series. So the first book I'm going to talk about, or the first series, is the Undead series by Mary-Janice Davidson. And this series is very lighthearted, as is the next one. This follows Betsy Taylor, who has just turned 30, lost her job as a secretary, and become undead. She gets hit by a car, and next thing you know, she wakes up in a tacky coffin with tacky shoes, and she shortly finds out that she's still out of a job, still needs to pay her bills, but also, while being a vampire, she's not an ordinary one. She's the queen of the vampires. So this first book, we follow Betsy, whose full name is Elizabeth Ann, I think, Taylor. Yes. But we call her Betsy, as she tries to get a job and deal with suddenly becoming queen of the vampires out of the blue. It's hilarious. They're quick reads. This might be pushing the paranormal romance a bit, especially the first couple of books, but there's a lot of UST, unresolved sexual tension, between her and Eric Sinclair, who is a much older vampire. So this is funny. It's very lighthearted. They're fun. I have not finished this series. I kind of forgot about it for a couple of years. But this is one of the series that is complete. There are 12 novels and like 4 short stories in this series, and I think I'm about halfway through it, and I do want to continue. So book number 2, or second series, I don't have the books anymore. It's the Sookie Stackhouse series, and that's how I think of it, because that's all it said on the covers other than the titles. This is a series by Charlaine Harris. It's also known as the Southern Vampire Mysteries series, and more broadly as the True Blood series. So this is a series that the HBO show True Blood was based off of. I was very shocked when I heard that was coming out, because this is similar to the Undead series in that the books are not that serious. It's more serious than the Undead series. There's more world building, there's more serious discussions, and we delve deeper into character development over the course of the series. And it's definitely more violent, in your face violent. But the book series is more lighthearted than the TV show was. It's not as dark. This is about Sookie Stackhouse, who is a girl who can read minds. She's living in rural Louisiana town, Bon Temps, and the difference is that vampires have been revealed as recently as 2 years ago. Their PR machine is saying, oh, they're just victims of a disease, of an illness, and they kind of play off the whole drinking blood thing as like taking medicine in a way. So Sookie is a waitress in her town, and she meets her first vampire, and she's intrigued because she can't read his mind. So that's how the series goes. I think the Southern Vampire Mysteries title is more appropriate because it's kind of serialized. Sookie deals with various mysteries in the kind of paranormal community in her town. So there is a lot of romance. Sookie and Bill, I don't like. I think most people don't like the books, the TV show. Bill is not the guy. Don't worry, she doesn't wind up with him. But there's also Eric and Sam and Alcide. So enjoy. And there are 13 books in this series. I think I read 8 or 9 of them. I don't know if I'm going to finish this. I recently donated the books that I had owned, so we'll see. I did enjoy True Blood, though. The next series I will talk about, number 9, is a little bit different. That is The Breeds by Laura Leigh. This is not the first book in this series that I'm showing you. I don't know where my copy of that is. So this is the 6th book in this series of 32 books, and I believe it's still ongoing as Laura Leigh writes this. I want to say these are very sexual. I started reading these off of Alora's Cave, which is digital publishing site, and that is Alora's Cave caters to more erotica. So while there is plot in here and there is an overarching world building that's happening slowly over the course of the books, it's very, very erotic. So if that's not your thing, then stay away. But so, what's the Breed series about? The Breeds are the experiments that were created by the Genetics Society, I think it was called, or the Genetics Council, in secret, and they combined human DNA with animal DNA, and the breeds were created. The first book, we follow I think it's a lion breed, or I don't remember. It's a feline breed, and he and his pride are stuck in these cages in a scientific facility, and they get found by a woman reporter, and that's the beginning of the series, obviously the first book, but it explodes and you find out, the real world finds out that breeds exist as these guys break out and their story is told. But each book we follow a different couple, how they meet and how they get along and how they have sex. And I like it. I think the sex is good. I think the relationships are good. There's a lot of what do you call it? Alpha maleness happening. There are female breeds as we get more into the series. We see some people grow up and create their own relationships. There's politics and relationship stuff and just, existentialism, because, a lot of these people are like, they were born this way. They weren't just injected with the DNA of animals. They were born and raised like this, so fitting into society, figuring out who they are as people, how they can live in the world. There's, like I said, press stuff as well. So it's interesting and I like it. Read the Breed series. I read a lot of Lorelei series because they're hot. Series number 8 is The Ghost Walkers by Christine Feehan. This is book 1 and obviously well read, and that's so funny. Like, I have this note of all the ghost walkers that we meet in this book so that I can remember them in future books. So yeah. This, I mentioned how the breeds are created because this is somewhat similar. The ghost walkers are basically the results of a classified experiment by this world-renowned scientist, Peter Whitney. Basically, the first book is Captain Miller. Finds out something has gone wrong, and he finds out that the program that he signed up for, him and his team, is worse than they ever imagined. They all have psychic abilities, but Peter Whitney has done more to them, and they find this out after an accident happens and Dr. Whitney is murdered. So while they go to find answers, they look to his daughter, Lily, who, between the two of them, they find out that this experiment is more than they were expecting. So each book, a different couple. In the beginning, we start off, I think, with like 6 or 7, but it expands from there. This series has a total of 17 books. I've read 11 of them, and I read the 11th one last year, so I do want to continue to see where this is going because there are some twists and turns. This can also fall into the romantic suspense category because of, all these guys from the military. And book or series, I keep saying book, but series 7 on my list is something a little bit different. And that is the All Souls series by Deborah Harkness. This is a series that I've read all the books for. This is the most recent release. There is the All Souls trilogy and then this book, but there will be more companion novels like this one in the series. So the first book in this series is A Discovery of Witches, which you might have heard of because there's also a TV series following the original trilogy for right now. Anyway, so the series, we're following Diana, who is a witch who has been living a regular, ordinary life, eschewing her family's witchcraft legacy by not practicing any magic. She is a professor at Oxford, and one day while doing research, she requests a book from the Bodleian Library in Oxford, and it's a weird book, not exactly what she wanted, so she sends it back to the stacks and goes about her days. Little does Diana know that her actually getting that book out and reading it is of interest to the other supernatural creatures of the world, those being vampires and demons, as well as other witches, because this book is supposed to be a book that will give clues to the past and the future of all supernatural beings. And so now they all want a piece of Diana because this book, none of them were able to request or get out from that library where she has. Romantic part comes in the other main character being Matthew, a vampire who is also a professor at Oxford, who approaches Diana to kind of figure out how she got the book out, but also, you know, maybe they can partner up and stuff. We go back and forth in time in this series, and their romance can be a little melodramatic, but none of these series are like sweet and innocent romances, so it is what it is. Like I said, there's 4 books out so far, and I've read them all, so I'm just waiting for the next one. The next series I'll talk about, 6 favorites. I do not have this series anymore. I recently donated them. I didn't think I would reread it again, so that's why I did it. But I do enjoy it because it was unique. This is the Riley Jensen Guardian series. This is set in Melbourne, Australia, and like most, if not all of the other series, this is an urban fantasy as well. But the setting, just that, was different for me. The Riley Jensen Guardian series is by Carrie Author. There are 9 books in the series. It's complete. I've read them all. There is a companion series, which I have not read yet, though. I don't know if I'm going to. But we follow Riley Jensen, who is a guardian in Melbourne, Australia. Vampires, werewolves, other shifters, fairies, and potentially other paranormal creatures are alive and well and known in the world in this series. And there is like a government entity that helps create a police force in Australia called the Guardians. Both Riley and her brother are Guardians, though he's like a super special spy, and she's more like your beat cop type. And she helps police the paranormal people in Melbourne. And what makes her and her brother special is the fact that they are half vampire and half werewolf. What I liked about this series is the fact that Riley is very modern and independent and not hung up on social norms. I mean, it's a fantastical world, urban fantasy, so not too weird. But like, okay, so she is half werewolf. Her senses are heightened, and she has a very high sex drive, and she just goes for it. If she needs to have some sex, then she's going to go have some sex. So the series starts out when her brother winds up disappearing, and Riley kind of gets the brush off from their bosses, so she tries to investigate on her own. She comes in contact with this vampire guy, and it's the romance part of things, and he's following similar threads to her, but for different reasons, and they eventually decide to team up. The sexual tension and the sex is really good between the both of them. I liked the evolution of their relationship. I liked the mystery as it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and this was unique for me, and it will stick in my mind probably forever, this series. So check it out. Next, series number 5 for me is another by Christine Behan. the Drake Sisters series. There are 7 books in the series, 6 full novels, 1 novella. The first book is a novella. This is not the first book. I own it, but it's in an anthology. So this, I think, is book 2, book 3. So this series, we follow 7 sisters who live on in the town of Sea Haven, which is, I don't remember if it's a peninsula or an island. But they're mostly surrounded by water. All the titles have like interesting water terms. This is a series about 7 sisters who all have some sort of psychic abilities or powers. It's something in their ancestry, and we meet each sister in each book as they meet their men, or fall in love with their men, because I think in the last 2 books we already knew those guys from previous. But anyway, this could also be romantic suspense, as can the Riley Jensen series, because of the suspense aspect. There's mysteries and action happening. We start off meeting the oldest sister in the first book, and she falls in love with a guy who came into town. He has some people after him trying to kill him, and he's drawn to their house, which is old and magical. So check out this series. It's nice. There is a companion series which I have started but not finished. It's obviously not the 7 sisters, but some other women. Okay, so these next 4, my top 4 favorite urban fantasy series, I've talked about in other videos, probably like my favorite series of all time, my favorite urban fantasy series. A couple of these might have been mentioned in, so I'm gonna try not to say the exact same things as I said there to describe them, but I do love these, and it was very difficult putting these in this order. A couple of years ago, especially the top 2 would have been different. So let's start off with 4 series. My 4th favorite series. It's the Guild Hunter series by Nalini Singh. This series, man. This is not the first book. This is actually the most recently released one. This is book number 12. Book number 13 is actually coming out in November. And yeah. So this series is set in New York City for the most part, a modern urban fantasy. We're following, for the most part, Elena Devereaux, who is a vampire hunter in a world where angels rule, the most powerful being the cadre of 10, the archangels. And Elena, like I said, is a vampire hunter, and she hunts vampires because every once in a while they go rogue and on killing sprees, and angels hire guild hunters from the Hunters Guild to get those vampires back to them so they can punish them and or kill them. And Elena is hired, oddly enough, by the Archangel of New York. Now, she's a New Yorker, so she knows who he is, but archangels are so far removed from your average human, it's weird. And he hires her to hunt someone that Elena is not sure she can actually complete the job. The main romance is between Elena and Raphael. However, after the first 4 books, we we start getting books that are shift in focus to uh, one of the seven and their eventual love interest. We do go back to Elena and Raphael several times. This book is Elena and Raphael, as was the book before it. Um, and you definitely become interested and learn to love all of Raphael's seven in this. It's a very interesting world. So, check this out. It's good. So, the next series was a little hard to put above the Guild Hunters, considering I haven't finished it. But that is the Fever series by Karen Marie Moning. It's so weird because I started reading this series because I was reading another series of hers, the Highlander series, where there's time travel and Highlanders, but they pop up in this series unexpectedly. You don't have to read one to read the other, but it's fun. This starts out pretty lighthearted and very quickly gets dark. We in the first This is book 5, and look at this cover. Look at this cover. Look at this cover. Oh, it's so great. So anyway, they didn't start out looking this good, so I need to go back and buy the first 4 books. But anyway, the first books, we're following Michaela Lane, who is American, living an average American white girl's life, but one day Michaela finds out that her sister has been murdered and the case is closed. But Michaela has this mysterious voice message from her sister that makes her think that the case shouldn't be closed and that everything is not what it seems or what she and her parents have been told. So she heads over to Ireland, and her aim is to find out what happened to her sister, who killed her sister. And Michaela falls into this world where everything is not what it seems. She meets this mysterious, tall, dark, and handsome guy, Jericho, who has no past and no future, and also Blaine, who is this alpha fae who can make people addicted to sex with just a touch. So Michaela has fallen into a world that is not what she was expecting, and you are not expecting this going in at the first. I think the synopsis for the first book is different from when I picked it up because I was blindsided by everything that happened, and as you go further in the series, it gets crazier. There are 11 books in the series so far. I think this is still ongoing. I've only read 5. I've read this, and I thought this was going to be the last book, so I didn't look for more. It wraps up pretty good here. There could be more in the world, but the main thing with her sister and why gets wrapped up pretty well here. The next couple of books, we follow another character who is in this first 5 books, but it's unexpected. She's so much younger. And I do think we get back to Michaela eventually. So, yeah, and it's like urban fantasy setting as well. The relationship is slow burn, but so good. So good. So do check out that series. The next one I want to talk about, another series. Number 2, and this was really hard. Really hard. A couple of years ago, this would have been number 1. But I had to figure out some order, and the reason I chose it is because I started getting confused. There's so many characters. I was getting lost, and I need to reread a couple of books to get back on track. But this is one of my favorite series of all time, point blank, period. Um, this is the Dark Hunters universe. I'm going to say the universe. If you know, you know. If you don't, there's a difference between the series and the universe, because the universe has several series in it. The Dark Hunter universe includes the Were Hunter series, the Dark Hunter series, uh, the Dream Hunter series, and two others that I don't remember the names of. But basically, I had to pull up the synopsis of what Dark Hunters are, because I've been reading this for so long, it's hard for me to describe without spoilers. So, Dark Hunters are created from ancient warriors who have been wronged. They come from all walks of life and all cultures. Some are human, some are not. No spoilers. Whenever someone is wronged and dying from an act of betrayal or brutal treachery, their soul makes a scream which echoes through the mountains of Olympus. When Artemis, the goddess, hears the sound, she goes to the one who made it and makes a pact. For a single act of vengeance against the ones who wronged them, they will swear their fealty to her service and spend the rest of eternity as a Dark Hunter hunting down the Daemon Menace. Each Dark Hunter is different, their powers are different, and they get psychic or in physical powers that are dependent on who they were basically in their regular lives. The only thing that ties them together is the fact that they all have fangs, I think black eyes, and they all have the Dark Hunter mark, where Artemis touched them, wherever she touched them at the time, where she pulled out their soul. So, Dark Hunters are kind of vampires, but not, obviously, your average vampire. This is not book 1. I think it's book 2? 3. Book 3. I already showed, like, book 1 and 2 in other videos. But yeah, so each book we're following a different couple, and that's why things get crazy. This series has been going on for 25 years. The Dark Hunters are the series. There are 18 books in the Dark Hunter series. In the universe, there are 31 books. It's huge, it's a lot, it's a commitment, but they're so good. Series number 1. The Side Changeling series by Nalini Singh. This is the second series I've mentioned by this author in just this video, but I've talked about this before, and at the very least my favorite series of all time video. This is such a unique world that I love it. That's what my top 4 have in common: the uniqueness of the world. And honestly, the top 2 have in common the whole tortured characters, which I love. So this is not book number 1. This is like number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Book number 6, I think. What is it? Yes. 7. Book number 7 in the series. And this is, the Side Changeling world is made of 3 races. The Sai, who have phenomenal mental abilities, and they drive them to insanity and murderous violence, unfortunately. So they have 100 years ago decided to live under the protocol of silence, where they eliminate all of their emotions. So they're cold, and very mental focused race. Then there are the changelings, which are the opposites, they have two forms. These are what in this series where animals, shifters are. Uh, they're human form and their animal form, and they're comfortable in both. Some are dominant, some are submissive, some are both. There are various groups: leopards, wolves, bears, water-based, falcons. They are more emotional. They're like the opposite of the Psy in that way. They're more physical. They tend to be stronger. They're very pack and clan oriented, and very moved by their emotions. Um, then there are humans, like regular human beings, who are stuck in between the powers of the Psy and the changelings. And this series, we follow various couples as they're living in this urban fantastical world. Each book follows a different couple. Some are changeling couples. Some are human changeling couples. Some are Psy changeling couples. Some are Psy couples. Some are Psy human couples. It's very interesting as they deal with each other and the plots get crazy. I have not finished this series. There are 21 books. I've read 16. So those are my top 11 favorite paranormal romance series. I like romance in my books. It's comforting. Maybe it's because I'm single, but whatever. I like romance. So I also like paranormal romance because I like paranormal creatures, and I don't really like horror, so I don't read books with vampires and werewolves and other were animals, ghosts and witches and things like that, where they're like the bad guys really, and humans are just trying to live, where they're like slavering animals or and whatnot. Those kind of things don't really do it for me. I don't mind the violent aspects of those, but I do. What I like about urban fantasies and paranormal romances is seeing how these beings would be in the real world, seeing the implications of their existence, whether regular humans know about them or not. I like seeing the politics, both within like their clans and their seas or their or whatever else, whatever group whatever you call them. I like seeing their politics within themselves, but the politics when they interact with humans or other races, and how the human government deals with things. I enjoy that. I like seeing stuff like, you know, paranormal being as law enforcement, or as regular people, like a baker. I like paranormal romances. Do you? Let me know some series that are your favorites down in the comments, because this is a genre that I'm always looking for more of. And yeah, these are my favorites, but these are not obviously the only ones I've read. I definitely tried to pare it down. I also, let me know if you've read these series, what you think. I mentioned I haven't completed them all. Would you put them in a different order? What do you think about later books? Don't spoil things for me, but do you think I would still put certain books in this order if I had read all of the later books? Let me know in the comments down below. This is one of the videos I was most excited to film. So please do comment and like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't, and hit the notification bell to see more videos coming up. I have the first half of my September reads video coming up, talking about the books I've read so far for Becca's Bookapalathon. And I'll have more favorite videos coming soon, though they'll all be shorter than this from now on. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are staying safe. If you're here in the US, you are keeping informed, but also taking care of your mental health. Yeah, please, if you're over 18, register to vote. Make sure you're registered. If you can, do the whole mail-in ballot thing. Know your options. Know what you want going forward. You don't have to have the same beliefs as me. It's just, keeping informed, making sure the government does its best for you and your community, and make sure you're staying safe, wearing your mask outdoors, staying 6 feet apart whenever possible, and washing your hands always, and do get checked for the coronavirus every couple of months, just in case. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.